had a pretty awful day, but there's just something you gotta smile about when you see a baby frog on a bell pepper. Yes, I'm going to eat this entire 1.5 pounds of bacon. And yes, I'm going to save every bit of the grease and probably cook with it today. I think I'm making a pasta carbonara. Put the bacon in the pasta, and then I'm going to cook a bunch of vegetables in the bacon grease, and then pour the rest of the grease over the pasta. But don't worry, it's going to be healthy because the bacon's free range, and I got a bunch of organic vegetables from the garden, so nothing to see here. It's also election day, and I definitely won't be washing down this 1.5 pounds of bacon with a 6-pack of beer. Potatoes are looking all right. Enjoying this cold weather. I've had a couple potatoes that have been attacked by green stink bugs, and it seems like the day after they get attacked, they wilt, and then they get some sort of weird rot. I had to pull up one potato plant early because it died from some rot. But I really just wanted to show you all the bell peppers real quick before I pick more of them. This has been a crazy year for bell peppers. I think I've already put close to 100 in the freezer. I've also put another 2 dozen in mason jars with vinegar. There's still more out here. I've also lost probably 40 or 50 bell peppers this year to squirrels, to birds, and to rot. The birds will come by and peck 1 or 2 holes in each pepper, then they get rained on and they rot. A couple of the plants have gotten really big and fallen over, and then the bell peppers are just in contact with wet soil and they rot. And then squirrels have probably gotten a few. But so this is just probably 4 plants here. We'll go in the backyard and look at the rest of the bell peppers. This bed was full of dollarweed, and I spent like 3 hours last weekend trying to get all the dollarweed out, and I still see more popping up in the back. But I got most of the dollarweed out. There's a potato there. It's interesting, the bell peppers are all different sizes, even on the same plant. So this one here is a really respectable, like, grocery store size. And then some of the others, this one's pretty big too. And some are maturing at a smaller state. The burgundy ones are the best tasting, the chocolate ones. I got some new olive trees that were full of weeds at Lowe's. There were more weeds in the pot than there were olive tree, but I cleaned them up. Still got some shishito peppers. I'm probably going to bring some in for the winter. Got some kale and collards. More things I need to plant. I got this little random row of things here. Collard kale plant, some peas, shishitos, volunteer potato we planted last week, some kale, some onions I started from seed. Pretty proud of those. Another volunteer potato I didn't plant. Kale, leeks, tomato, kale. This was my crazy pepper plant this summer. I probably got 300 to 400 shishito peppers off this one plant, but it definitely seems to be dying. I don't think that's a dehydration wilt. That's some type of disease wilt, probably. More potatoes, but you can see how they're wilting. I don't know what got them. I know the roly-polies have been doing a lot of damage, but I try not to water them. This one's got some weird wilt to it as well, but I think this one's just damaged from the wind. Brand new onion bed. I think I planted some cilantro and spinach in here too, but it's mostly going to be onions. That was a pallet, and I turned that into a little raised bed. I just want to keep this video update kind of short. I know I haven't done one in a while. I've been busy with other stuff. Got a random broccoli plant next to this tomato. Still got plenty of dill. A lot of the dill's trying to go to seed, but some of it's still nice and leafy. Got some lettuce and onions that aren't quite big enough to set out yet. I had planted some broccoli in here, but it's mostly clay, and it flooded, and a lot of them died. There's a handful of plants left. They got real beat up by the wind the other night. After the flood and the clay kind of went anaerobic and got all sulfury and gross, I ended up just scattering some daikon seed out here, and they came up really well. They don't seem to mind the clay. Got all these sweet potato vines in here, but I'm not sure where the roots are to dig. That's a little bit of a problem. I mean, technically sweet potatoes will make edible roots anywhere that the roots have enough time to enlarge, but there's a lot of vines out here that probably just have tiny little roots on them, and I kind of want to find the base of the plant where all the big roots are, but I have no idea where it is. I mean, these vines are probably 20-30 feet in all directions. There's some Malabar spinach back here going to seed. There's still a handful of zinnias that kind of volunteered late in the season. I mean, see, we've got more sweet potatoes way out here. This is supposed to be the blackberry patch, and it looks like there's quite a bit of volunteer Malabar and volunteer sweet potato in the blackberry patch. Finally able to walk around the garden a little more now that things are getting a little bit less jungly as the temperatures come down. This is all comfrey here. I need to come out with a machete and chop some of this comfrey down for chop and drop fertilizer. More sweet potatoes. Some seriously overripe Burgundy Okra that I haven't picked in like a month. The weight of the pods is causing the branches to break. Here's more Burgundy Okra. I think it's probably too late in the season to try to pick these off and hope the plant produces more okra that I can eat. I think I'm just gonna let those pods mature and be seed for next year. Still got more sweet potatoes and random mint plants and volunteer tomatoes. I mean, it's honestly just a big mess back here, but most of the mess is sweet potatoes, tomatoes, and mint. I got this really cool volunteer pumpkin thing that I want to say it's like a Italian zucchini. It's one of the vining type zucchinis that are kind of rare. This was my favorite bell pepper plant. This one was just in a small clay pot, and I let it root into the ground, and this thing's been a champ. It's probably made 20 or 25 grocery store size bell peppers. But a lot of these have gotten eaten by squirrels and things. And it's also been one of those plants that like kind of outproduced itself. It put on too many heavy peppers and the branches started snapping. This was supposed to be garlic, but I planted the garlic in September, and this was completely clean. No weeds. And now there's weeds popping up, and sweet potato vines have managed to infiltrate all the garlic. The loquats seem to be flowering way early this year. I've noticed that all around town. I'm not sure why loquats are flowering this early, but it makes me nervous. Bunch more okra that's kind of collapsing. Again, this is Burgundy Okra. My tropical fruit trees I need to think about bringing in the house in the next month. But these things are heavy, and my back's still pretty messed up. Got some fall asparagus popping up, cowpeas. This was a huge mess of dollar weed. There's still quite a bit of dollarweed infestation going on in here, but I've been trying my best to keep this area dry. And I just planted a bunch of onion sets in here. I want to say I planted red onions in here, like the purple onions. So hopefully they'll be able to outcompete the dollarweed over the winter. The onions will hopefully be a little bit more dominant. This is my favorite purple bell pepper plant that starts purple and turns red. It's just such a wild thing to watch. I mean, initially the fruits are green, and then they turn dark purple, and then they go from purple to red. And it's just kind of a weird mind warp. You don't expect things to go from green to purple and then purple to red. But they're great flavor once they're red. I don't really like them in the purple stage. If you harvest them green, it's just a regular old green bell pepper and you can do whatever you want with it. If you harvest them purple, they're kind of bitter and astringent. And then if you wait until they turn red, they're really sweet and juicy. More sweet potato vines out here. Another bell pepper plant. This is one of the Burgundy bells. I think I let this eggplant go too long. That's probably seed now. I was kind of disappointed with this eggplant. Didn't really produce a whole lot of fruits this summer. The basil got nuked last night with the frost, but the arugula's still kicking. Got some cilantro hiding in here. This is a wonderful dill plant. This is just volunteer. I usually wouldn't devote a whole 5-gallon bucket of nice soil to one dill plant, but it volunteered and it's doing well. More bell peppers. That's a nice big bell pepper there. Wow. Look at that honker. I like how they make them in these like clusters. See, a lot of them rot before I have a chance to pick them, and I think the rot spreads to other fruits. Nasty rotten one. But yeah, I mean, just on this one little bell pepper plant here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 big fruits just on that one branch. And there's more branches out here. But yeah, once they hit the ground, they're pretty much doomed. Oh, something's digging up the carrots over here. Probably rodents. I'm kind of at that stage where I have a whole lot more vegetables back here than I can actually manage. So a lot of stuff does get wasted. But I don't know. I don't know if you can truly call it waste, because I guess wildlife are eating it and a lot of it self-composts. But I really need to spend less time gardening and more time hunting and fishing, because I got more produce than I know what to do with, but I don't really have as much meat as I would like to have for the winter. I didn't pick these green beans in time, and now I'm just going to have seed for next year, I guess. They looked beautiful about a month ago. Like dozens of really nice pods, and now all the pods are dried up. And I guess it'll be good seed for next year, but that wasn't really my plan. You know, seed is fairly cheap, whereas fresh, raw green beans at the grocery store are expensive. So I wanted to have a bunch of fresh, raw green beans, and I just never got a chance to pick them. It was too hot, and then it was too much mosquitoes, and then it was too wet, and I just never picked them. And now all those nice green bean pods are all dried out. I've cracked a few of these open, and the beans inside are really pretty. They're like a very light, creamy white color with a tan stripe in the middle. Kind of look like a pinto type. Maybe I'll crack one open and show y'all real quick. But yeah, I mean, this one is still at a stage where you could eat it as a green bean, but a month ago, these vines were covered, like hundreds of these nice little green pods. And now you just got all these dried up pods. But I'll crack one open and show you all the... Wow, hear that cracking noise? That's a good sign that that seed's going to be viable for next year. But yeah, I mean, look at the color of that. That's really pretty. It's not quite a pinto, it's not quite a Great Northern. I think this variety is actually called Seychelles. I don't remember the... When I planted these, I could have swore that the seeds were just like a solid white color. And what I'm getting back is... They could have crossed with something else. I guess there's some volunteer green beans out here too, but... that's just a really pretty bean. So yeah, I'll have plenty of seed for next year, even though I Wasn't really going for seed. That's all right. Mosquitoes are mostly done for the year, I think. It was 34 this morning. Mosquitoes don't really like stuff like that. So now I can spend a little bit more time out here. That gigantic leek needs to be harvested soon. This bell pepper plant got 2.5 feet tall and never really made any fruits this summer. That's all right. I had 40 or 50 plants. Volunteer potatoes are popping up way too late. They're going to get nuked by frost in the next month before they have any time to produce. Still haven't harvested any sunchokes yet this year, but plan to. More bell pepper plants. That one's got a gigantic hole eaten out of it, probably by a bird. That's a shame. More leeks and tomatoes, and this tangerine was collapsing, so I propped it up with this piece of a bunk bed. My potted lemon plants were really disappointing this year. They made gigantic lemons, bigger than oranges, and then every single one of them like rotted before it turned ripe. And I'm wondering if they got that citrus greening from Florida. You can see an example here. This is supposed to be a lemon, and this thing is the size of a grapefruit, but it hasn't really turned yellow. It's got this greenish yellow tint to it. And like I said, every one of them seems to fall off the plant and rot before they ripen. So if anybody is familiar with citrus greening, is that what I have here? Is this citrus greening disease? I sure hope not. But anyway, I got bacon sizzling in the house. I don't really need to walk around the garden and show y'all every single bell pepper that's out here, I guess. I'm pretty proud of the bell peppers, but I mean, there really are a lot of them. Like I said, there's already close to 100 in the freezer and a couple dozen in jars. But kind of a strange year because I had pretty much zero tomato crop this year. Peppers and tomatoes are obviously very closely related in the same genus, and so you would think that a year that was good for one would be good for the other. I had almost no tomato crop this year. The plants I had in the spring got killed by heat early on, got lots of diseases in the summer. I got all kinds of volunteer tomatoes this fall, but none of them seem to have flowered yet. It's November. Days are getting short. It was 34 degrees this morning, and I got all these tomatoes out here with tons of leaves on them and no flowers, no fruit, which is very strange, but I'm not sure what that means. And here's another example here. Like, this is all volunteer tomato. I mean, these are pretty decent sized tomato plants. They should have fruit on them by now, or at least flowers. Same thing back here. Plenty of tomato vines, no fruit. And it's not a fertilization issue. I don't come back here with heavy nitrogen. I saw one the other day that was really thick stem tomato. I don't remember where it is now, but I mean, here's some more. All these are volunteer tomatoes. That's a decent sized tomato plant there. No flowers on it. But I'm not too emotionally invested in tomatoes anymore. They're a lot of work for fairly little yield, in my opinion. They don't produce a whole lot of calories. Yeah, it's nice to have a fresh tomato for a tomato sandwich, but it's not like a make it or break it thing for me anymore. I often kind of discourage new gardeners from focusing too much on tomatoes because they really don't like our humidity here. We have a very short season in the spring for them, and then they just get destroyed by diseases because of the heat and humidity, and then it's too hot for them to make fruit in July and August and September. I might get a decent fall crop of some of the volunteer cherries, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Like I said, I've harvested 500-600 peppers this year, just bells, and another 400 or 500 shishitos. So in terms of nightshades, I definitely got my fill this year. I think I've had peppers with dinner every single day for the last like 3 months. So, but anyway, thank y'all for tuning in. Sorry it's been a while since I did a garden update. I thought there was a dog back here somewhere. Now I can't find him. Dog? Maybe he's on the porch. But, little herb garden here. I put one of these chocolate habaneros in my Halloween chili to make it scary hot. One of these tiny little chocolate habaneros will turn a 2-gallon pot of chili into fire. And it was delicious. Alright, well, I guess that's enough for today. Thank y'all for tuning in. Maybe I can go find that Wolf Farm dog real quick. I sure hope these onions do well. All farm dogs on the porch. Farm dog, say hi. Say hi. Yeah. I cleaned up the porch since the last video. I think it used to be like a big trash pile. Another shishito. The one sad part about the shishitos is that the leaf-footed bugs have been really destroying them. Because the shishito is a thin-walled, kind of soft pepper, the leaf-footed bugs are able to feed on it, and they make these tiny little holes in the pepper that we can't see because they're too small, but the tiny little microscopic damage they do leads to the peppers rotting. You can see this one's all squishy here. This is all squishy and full of goo because it got preyed on by leaf-footed bugs, and then it's vulnerable to fungal and bacterial disease. I need to plant this cactus. This is about to flower for the first time, which is really interesting and different. I've never seen this flower before. It's one of those mother of 1,000 things. Look how much nicer that looks without all the dollar weed in there. Good job. Put up some more birdhouses. I didn't grow any of these this year, but I had like 50 or 60 of them last year, so hopefully that'll last me a while. I had one plant this year that I showed y'all, but it ended up getting some disease and rotting before it made any actual gourds. But anyway, thank y'all for tuning in today.